Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being with us for this new topic of our workshop today. Really appreciate your presence with us and wish that Jesus' peace be with each one of you. So the topic today that we are going to start right now, we are going to talk about consequences of suicide and how will be the life after life. So we're going to talk about what happens after someone commits suicide. We're going to bring some facts, we're going to bring some testimonies of those ones that passed through this situation, that have chosen this pathway, that brought us their experience, what they have lived, so what they have going through, and that will help us to have this knowledge, because knowledge is very important for us to prevent us to choose the things or the pathways that are not good for us. So we're going to start with some initial reflections that I would like to invite all of you to think about, to reflect about, to ask or to try to answer those questions in a very authentic way. So that will be very helpful for us while we are going through the conversation that we are going to start right now. So the first reflection that I would like to bring to you is, what happens with an immortal spirit when it dies abruptly? Why cannot we die? Why does someone who committed suicide suffer? And what is the future of someone that committed suicide? So we are going to try to answer all these questions as we go, and hopefully we have all these questions, all these reflections answered by the end of our talk today. So let's start what we have seen so far. So we have talked about suicides in Canada. That's what Victor brought to us. Numbers, all the numbers not only in Canada but in Alberta too, which is very scary. Some sources that we can rely on in order to overcome challenges, right? This our own challenges and challenges that a loved one maybe is passing through. Types of suicide that Renata brought to us, the directed and indirected suicide, conscious about conscious, unconscious. She brought very good thoughts and reflections about what we're doing in order to understand the process and to realize when someone is going through this process, with what are the signs that some relative or some friend is showing, and we need to be aware about mainly our kids. In our role as parents, we need to be very aware about our kids. Luis just talked about mental and spiritual health. He brought us very good reflections, very profound reflections about how to self-welcoming us when we are going through some challenges in life, how to deal with that in a lovely way, and just in all them brought us the message from Jesus you know, the apprentice invitation that we are all should be aware about. And now we are going to talk about consequences. So up to now we were talking about the process before, and now we are going to talk about the process after. So without overdue, let's start. So consequences of suicide. I'd like to bring this statement from one of the mentors, superior spirits that help us to understand better this process, where he says to raise awareness of the creatures, of the consequences of the act, and in the beyond, of the pains that hurt the relatives, and from the outrage to the divine loss, is a salutary method to reduce the incident of this insolvent solution. So I would like to call attention of yours about the consequences of the act in the beyond. And some of you, you're going to ask, what do you mean of the beyond? What is the consequences after all? The consequences will be nothing. Some of you, you're going to say, there's nothing beyond. There's only the peace that I'm looking for. So we are going to see that later on. And we need to think about the pains that this act can cause to our relatives, to our family members, to our friends, and the divine laws that we are all invited to follow, as they are mercy laws, they are laws created by God to guide us through love and to happiness towards Him. So Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, he is one of the great mentors that bring us many informations about the spiritual world. And he says that regardless of how it occurs, always produce suffering in the short, in the medium, and in the long term, on both planes, spiritual and physical world. Spiritism, the doctrine of the spirits brought by Allan Kardec, says that Spiritism does not just preach theoretically what happens. It lays out the facts before our eyes. These facts, they are brought to us by the spirits that pass through that situation, by their mentors, by the superior spirits that come to advise us about the serious consequences that are waiting beyond when we choose this pathway. So the spirits, they reveal their suffering through mediumship to us, to prevent us to do the same. And then we are going to ask, okay, but I still don't believe that I'm not going to die, that I don't want to leave, and I want to ending this situation. I just want to sleep. I just want to forget. Because as Victor brought, as Renata emphasized, the suicidal person, they don't want to kill themselves. They want to kill the pain. So that's the goal. I don't want to live with this pain anymore. But it's important to know we cannot die. We are twin beams. We are three in one. We are spirit, we are perispirit, and we are body. So this body has the perispirit, that is our spiritual body, and spirit is the being that thinks, the being that makes choices, and the perispirit is the connection between the spirit and the body. So nobody can kill us, even ourselves. It's important to know that we are not gonna reach our goals when we intend to end our lives, because our lives is our essence. We are immortal spirits. So this is important to know, because if we want to go through this process, we need to know what is going on, what is there waiting for us. So in the most of the cases, and I want to emphasize, and I'm going to emphasize this several times during our talks today, every case that we're going to bring here, every time that I'm going to talk about consequences, I want to make sure that everybody understands that these consequences we are talking in generally. We are generally speaking about the consequences, because each case is a different case. It's very widely, and we're going to talk about that. So the consequences that I'm going to show, some of the consequences that I'm going to show now, we are talking in general. So, first one, the suffering continues. Second, we are going to go to be in a location in areas of suffering. We are going to hurt our spiritual body. Those injuries may be reflected in the next incarnation. And we're going to talk about sufferings of family members and friends and co-workers and everybody that is in contact with us. So again, the consequences are not the same for everyone. It depends on the circumstances. Some people, they expiate right away the fault. Others in a new existence, which would be sometimes worse than the one whose they interrupted. This is a statement from Allan Kardec, confirmed in the Spirit's book, about the differences between the cons and the pros that can help or that can relieve the consequences of someone that commits suicides. So in the Spirit's book, we see the question, we have the question 957, where Kardec asks, in general, again, what are the consequences of suicide on the state of the spirit? So in the state where we have already committed the act, we don't have our body, our physical body anymore, so what's the consequences in general? And the superior spirits answer, the consequences of suicide vary widely. There are no set penalties, and in all cases, they are always relative to the cause that preceded them. So, they're always relative to the cause that produced them. One consequence from which those who committed suicide cannot escape, however, is disappointment. So that is the only one consequence that is common for all of people that commit suicide, for all of us that try to commit suicide. Disappointment. Because if you are waiting to get there and have the peace that we are waiting for, to run away from our problems, to sleep forever, to forget. Unfortunately, this is not going to happen. And the disappointment will be the greater consequence, the first consequence for those that took that pathway. So the rest, all the other consequences vary widely, right? And like I said, some of us can expiate immediately our guilt, and some can have the chance to choose their trials, different trials that can help them to evolve. And we need to know that we have chosen to be here, to pass through the trials that we are passing through. Because when we were planning our reincarnation, because reincarnation is a God's law, actually it's a mercy law that provides us the reincarnation to give us the opportunity to evolve, to learn, to be wiser, to be wiser, and to choose good things for us and for everyone that will live with us. And sometimes, because we are in a state of lack of self-love, we are in a state of rebel, we interrupt this opportunity, this blessed opportunity of learning. So then when we interrupted this life, we get there and we have the disappointment to know that we didn't interrupt, that the life goes on. So there is no death, everything is life, remains alive. We will see that we remain alive with all the problems that we had before, and even more problems that we are going to get because of that act. So, and why we cannot die? First of all, because of the first slide that I showed, that we are able to kill only our physical body. We have the spirit, the pure spiritual body, and we are spiritual, so we cannot kill ourselves. And second, because there is a bond that unites the spirit to the body. When we agreed to come to reincarnate, we come with a certain limit of vital energy that Renata told us about. And this bond that we can see here brings this limit, this sufficiency, this vital energy that is enough for that period of life. When this link that connecting the spiritual body is severed abruptly after suicide, the first result is extension of the confusion. We feel confused, we feel that we don't know where we are and what is going on. And because we realize that we didn't die, that we are not in that stage that we imagined before. And the second is the illusion that we are still living on the earth, because we can feel ourselves as alive, as still in the body, and we don't understand. Some spirits they bring their revelation stating that they have all the sensations from the spiritual, from the physical body, because of this cord that was interrupted, that was broken abruptly, and all the vital energy was still there. So Kardec says that subsequent persistence of the bound that units spirit and body to break, this bound is found in the holy vigor at the moment it is broken. So it's different when we die naturally, because this bound, it starts weakens gradually, and sometimes just falls apart before life is extinguished completely. So when we just leave, the course of life goes on, all the process is natural, all the process is gradually, is smoothly. When we try to interrupt our life abruptly, when we go against God's law, so there is the problem, there is the point where we are going to start having problems and suffering and pain. So this bound plays a very important role in the spirit sensation. Instead, we have this natural release. In some cases, the spirit realizes that she or he is still, doesn't have the physical body anymore. It's not living on the earth anymore, but does not understand why they are still having the physical sensation as they were alive. And this situation can extend until the bound weaknesses, which means if I have my life, I have this commitment to live 100 years, and I decided to interrupted my life right now, I still have 50 years of vital energy to weakness. So again, this is in general, each case it's a case. Some people have this sensation, other that is still alive and feeling the sensations of the body, or the other ones, they are in another state. So it will differ, depends on each person, each case, and everything is taking away that the mercy law applies. So everything can be softness can by the divine law. So we have some revelations or some testimony here on the Spirit's book, question 165, that says, at the moment of death, everything appears confused at the first, and the soul needs some time to recognize itself. It feels dazed, like someone waking out of a deep sleep, who tries to understand the situation. So this is what normally happens when we have this, our life abruptly severed abruptly. And continues, this confusion presents particular aspects depending on the character of the individual, and especially depending on the type of death involved. In violent deaths, like suicide, capital punishment, accident, stroke, mortal wounds, etc. So the spirit is surprised and astonished. It does not believe itself to be dead. It stubbornly persists in asserting that it has not died. So this is a state of confusion. Depends on the beliefs that this person had as incarnate. If this person was aware about spiritual life, if was spiritual, if was had some religion, some beliefs, and the type of that too. So as Kardec said in the first beginning at the question 957, will vary widely. So you need to be very careful to not think that this are going to happen with any case, each case. It all depends how is the life of the person before, how the type of death that person had. This all will depends. But here is the knowledge that we are trying to bring as a clarification to help those that are thinking about. So the Spiritism brings lights into this topic, into this situation as an advice for those that, for us, for me as well, that even haven't ever thought about, but maybe in the future I have the knowledge. I know what is going to happen. So if I want to go through, or if I don't want to go through, it's my decision. So, question 257, the sensation of the spirits, we have a testimony, like I said. So here, a suicide said to us, in this case, in the session of the mediumship encounter that Kardec was present, he said, "No, I'm not dead," and added, "Yet I can feel the worms devouring me." Of course, the worms were not devouring the perispirit, the less the spirit, but only the body, the physical body. Since the separation between the body and the perispirit was not yet complete, there continued to be a mental repercussion that transmitted the sensation to the body. So, because of this vital energy, because of this bound that was veered abruptly, the body was in decomposition, and the spirit was feeling the sensation. In some cases this happens, and sometimes person didn't commit a suicide, but the person had a very hedonistic life, materialistic life, and it's very connected to the body. It's very attached to the body, refused to leave the body. So then the connection is still there. So the invitation is trying to, we need to try to make, to do exercises, to be more and more spiritualistic, trying to connect it more with God, with our real life, which is spiritual life. So we are gradually detached from the physical body, because the physical body will stay here, but we as spirits, we are gonna come back home. We are gonna go back home. We are gonna be with our spiritual family, as Victor brought to us earlier this morning. And continues with the question 957, Kardec explains that religion, morality, and every philosophy condemn suicide as contradicting the law of nature or the divine laws. They all stress the principle that we have no right to shorten our lives voluntarily. Nonetheless, why do we not have that right? Why are we not free to put an end to our suffering? Yeah, I know that many people are asking these questions right now. Why I'm not free to do that? Why I don't have the right to put an end to my sufferings? Well, we have the law the free will law that gives us this right. The divine laws, they don't go against each other, but we are invited to connect to the main law, that is law of law, that invites us to connect it with the God, to have this strength that we need to face our challenges. And Kardec continues explaining this part, these questions. Spiritism focuses upon numerous examples of those who have yielded to this temptation in order to show that suicide is not only a fault and violation of moral law. Is not only that, something that is of little significance to some. Yeah, maybe some people you're not care about the divine laws. They are so much in pain, they only can see their pain. But it's also foolish, because a spirit gains nothing by it. Spiritism does not just preach this theoretically, it lays out the facts before our eyes. So the Spiritism is trying to bring light to these consequences, to this point, to this aspect of the suicide. When we try to go through this pathway, we gain nothing. We gain more suffering. The result is more pain. So why should I go to a pathway that leads me to more suffering? So this is important to keep in mind. Let's keep going here. We have now some testimonies that we could find in the book of Heaven and Hell. There are lots of testimonies there that brought to us by revelation or through mediumship, and this is the one of them. The suicide of Francois Simon Louvet. So he says, this testimony was given spontaneously in the meeting in Le Havre in February 12, 1863. And it says, "You will have mercy on a poor miserable man who has suffered for a long time from cruel tortures. Oh, the vacuum, the space, fall, I fall, help. My God, I had such miserable existence. I was a poor man. I suffered so much hunger in old age." So he is here describing his life. His life was not happy. He had lots of struggles and challenges in his life. But he was old man. That's why I got used to drinking, to be ashamed and disgusted with everything. I wanted to die and threw myself. Oh my God, what a moment. And for such a wish, when the end of life was already so next. Pray, lest I see this vacuum incessantly under me, I'm gonna tear myself apart on those stones. This is so sad. He feels himself following all the time, incessantly. That's the sensation that his spirit has from the moment that he threw himself over the bridge. So that brings us, that we are bringing more suffering to us. And here he says, oh my God, life was already so next. Which this brings us some cases that Renata explained to us about euthanasia. The life is so next. Why should I instead abbreviate my sufferings just being calm and resignated for a little bit more, instead going to the other side and gain more suffering for sometimes centuries. So this is something that we need to have in mind. Another example is one of the most famous books about suicide. It's The Memories of Suicide, and this was brought here by Renata earlier today. This book, it's about the life of Camilo Castelo Branco, actually about his suicide, and was psychographed by Ivone Amaral Pereira. This book is from 1955 and has 568 pages. And a little bit more about, I would like to bring a little bit more about Camilo and Ivone. So, who was Camilo? Camilo was a Portuguese writer of the 19th century and had produced more than 260 books, mainly novels and poems and plays. He was born in March 1825, and he committed suicide in 1890 with a revolver because he was blind. He was passing through the trial of blindness, and he didn't accept his trial, so he killed himself. And who was Ivone do Amaral Pereira? So she was a Brazilian sewer and medium, and she's author of several psychographic books. She was one of the most respected Brazilian mediums, author of psychographic novels, well known among spiritists in Brazil. And for many years, she dedicated herself to disobsession and homeopathic medicines. So this it's about Camilo and Ivone Pereira. And something that I would like to bring about Ivone is Ivone was, she had a very special mediumship because she had committed suicide in several existences before. And for this last existence, she had chosen to have a special mediumship to as a repentance, as an expiation for her conscience, for her to balance her vital energy, to as a treatment for her death as a suicidal. And this is something that I would like to emphasize, that sometimes a person, some people say that if I committed suicide with a revolver, like if I have a shot in my head, I'm gonna come with some problems in my brain, I'll have some mental health disabilities, some different kinds of disabilities. Yes, this can happen, and moral trials as well. Some can come with a medium as a very special medium too. And this was the case of Ivone Pereira. And what is the book is about? Well, the book gives us a very, very strong words, a very vivid description of what happens with the suicidal person afterwards, after the life, because the life goes on. So Camilo brought this wonderful and very famous book that brings us a very, very real situation, what is going on, what happens with a person. And the book is a statement, actually, against suicide, describing in first part the sufferings experienced by those who attempted against their own lives. In the second and the third part is focused on the work of assistance and preparation for a new reincarnation. This work is considered a milestone in the Brazilian mediumship, bibliographic, and the best examination of suicide from a spiritual doctrinal point of view. So this book, it's a kind of book that we recommend to all of you to read at least once in your life. It's like earlier this morning, this book was provided to you online. So we strongly recommend that you go through this book. It brings so much information, valuable information. And again, the lack of knowledge always works against us. So it's better to know, so we know where we are going, what we're going to do. So, and in this book, we need to say that this book describes the value of suicide that we're going to talk about soon after, and was bring to us with the permission of Mary of Nazareth, Jesus' mother. She is a kind of patron. She looks after the suicides. So this brings so much consolation to our hearts, because only one mother can look after our sons, ourselves. So it's important to know that nobody is by themselves. They have been taken care by the divine laws, by God, and especially in these cases by Mary of Nazareth. So the value of suicide is described by Leon Denis, where he says that after death, before the spirit gets hold of itself, gravitating towards the true spiritual home, this is our real, true home that it deserves, it has to undergo a phase in anteroom. So, has to undergo a phase in this anteroom in a region whose density afflictive configurations correspond to the newly discarnated vibrational state. So what does it mean is, for a certain period of time, it's important to stay in this underroom, spend some time in this underroom. And the value of suicide is not something that is there to punish. There is no punishment. There is no law of punishment. God's law is love, always. So in this place, actually, they are protected by the Legion of Servants of Mary, and they need to stay there until the vibration, until they have the balance, the spiritual balance back again. The vital energies that impregnate all material bodies needs to be vanished. It's always temporary. And the type, and this we are gonna, depends, like the state goes to this anteroom, you depend on the type of life and the type of death of the discarnate spirit. And the type of death and the type of life will determine the time and the penury of this site. And we need to remember why we are here incarnated. We have the opportunities to make choices. Making good choices will help us to have a better, to connect it to God, and to have a better view of what we need to choose in our lives. And the servants of Maria will be Mary will be there to help all this, those that are there in suffering. And here, Camilo, he brings his testimony about the servants of Mary. Suddenly, from within the dense and dark surroundings, the white vehicles appeared, dispersing the darkness with their powerful spotlights. The caravan stopped on the moody square. a regiment of lancers stepped out. Immediately thereafter came men and women who looked like nurses. And then the same head of previous expeditions in his Hindu turban and tunic. So here we can see they are getting there, they are going there to help those that are in that stage that they can be helped, right? And this is due to the divine mercy. And the lancers, they say here, the lancers, they are there actually to protect the suicides, right? To keep everything organized, the expedition organized, so they can collect those that are in the right stage to receive help. So they call by their names, and they are being helped by these nurses that have a cross in their clothing. It's very beautiful, the description how these the servants of Mary, how they act. So, and Jesus, he told us that. So Jesus told us that for a long time now, I have commended them to my mother. For only maternal inspiration is sufficiently charitable to uplift them towards God. Talking about moms, how hard is for a mom to see a kid, a son, a daughter going through this process. There is hope. Mary is the servants of Mary is there to help our kids, to help the kids of other moms. So, and this is a very consoling message that prevents us to try to break or to go against the divine laws and do the same thing in order to try to help our kids. We are not supposed to do that, to commit the same mistake. And this is brought to us on the question 956, where Kardec asks, those who cannot bear the loss of loved ones kill each other in the hope of joining they reach their goal. So the spirits answer, the result they harvest is very diverse of what they expected. Instead of joining the object of his affection, from him they distance themselves for more time. So this is the reality. We are not going to be able to meet. I'm going to commit suicide because I want to be with my son or my daughter. This is not going to happen because you're going to be more distance from them. And this is bring for us on our heaven and hell again, another testimony from this spirit. He passed away in a normal condition, but his mom couldn't refrain the pain, couldn't accept with resignation his death, and she committed suicide, thinking that she would be able to meet him. And hear what he says. Are you, that's the question that in this mediumship session, Kardec and other people that were there, they asked him, are you aware of the death of your mother, who killed herself in despair of losing you? And he says, yes, and but for the grief which has been caused me by her fatal act, I should be perfectly happy. My poor dear mother, she could not bear the trial of this momentarily separation. It's just a momentarily separation. And she has taken, in the hope of being reunited with the son she loved so dearly, and the road which must necessarily keep her from him for a long, long time. Pray, oh, pray for her. And you mothers who are touched by the sad recital of her death, take care not to imitate her fault. Don't do that. Do not imagine that her love for the son, who was her joy and her pride, was greater than that of other mothers. No, it was not that she loved more than others, but she lacked courage and resignation. Mothers who hear me, when you behold the eyes of your children closed in death, remember that, like Christ, they have climbed to the top of the Calvary, from which they will rise into the glory of the higher life. Benjamin C. We know there's so much pain, suffering on the family members that stays here after somebody commits suicide. Family don't understand, doesn't understand. Friends, like Renata brought to us earlier, between 7 to 10 people are impacted by someone that committed suicide. And what the Divine Law said to say to us, along with this testimony, what more we can seek, what more information we have in order to console ourselves, to strengthen our faith, to be able to have resignation calm. Guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little bit later than I was expected. Just a quotation here, just a device. So, the divine mercy and the future of the Spirit says in Heaven and Hell, chapter 7, every fault committed, every evil deed accomplished, is a debt that must be paid. If it be not paid in the present earthly life, it will be paid in the next, or in the subsequent ones. So we would like to I would like just to call attention of all of yours that are watching us now, that the language that we used into 18th century, like we are increase our vocabulary. And here, because of that time, was everything so much close to the church, all the language of the churches by that time, that here we say use fault, use debt, use must be paid. So we need to understand that there's no punishment, there is no judgment at all. We are here to bring knowledge, clarification, and consoling. So what we're saying here is, every time that we deviated from God's law, we are going to collect consequences of our acts. There is a law called cause and consequences. So for every act that we do, good or not good, we're going to have consequences from that act. So if you choose the acts, the pathway that always lead us to the good, that's how will be the consequences. And that's what they are saying. Because in order to harmonize us again with the divine laws, with our own conscience, we need to restart again. We need to start over. We need to face the consequences of the choices that we have chosen. This is how we evolve. We are all created without knowledge, and we are passing through existences to be wiser, to have more experiences, to learn how to love, to evolve towards God. That's our goal. That's our future. So Camilo brings some lessons from his choices. He says that suicides are morally delinquent spirits that failed to honor the commitments they have made before the wise, just, and immutable laws established by the Creator. They will be obliged to repeat their earthly existence in a new body. Everyone, all us that we are here, we are repeating some experiences that we failed before. Since they destroyed the one that the law conferred on them as an instrument to aid the conquest of their own self-perfection. A sacred deposit that they should have cared for and respected rather than destroyed. So, at the moment that we reincarnated, we need to give value to this body. It's an instrument that helps us to learn, that help us to be better, that help us to be in harmony with the divine laws. And that divine mercy, the divine law provided to us. And we need to give value to this gift of God, this opportunity to be here, to aid our egos and to develop virtues. The spirits of suicides will return to new earthly bodies in high afflictive suffering conditions, aggravated by the consequences of the great imbalance that the desperate gesture caused in their astral body, the perispirit. So as we said before, we can have physical trials that will be worse than the ones that we had before, or moral trials that will be worse than we had before. In either way, we are gonna have much serious consequences, we are gonna face a very much serious consequences and challenges. The return of suicides to physical bodies is the law. The reincarnation is the unavoidable law for all of us. The only ones that don't need to reincarnate anymore are the pure spirits. We are far from there. So we still need this blessed reincarnation to learn, to develop virtues. Their return is an irremediable expiation to which they must submit willingly or not. Because of their own good, there is no other recourse but the repetition of the plan that they deserted without having completed. The law of reincarnation is a blast. It's a greater opportunity for us to evolve again. And we need to repeat all the lessons that we didn't learn. That's the law. And that's what we are supposed to do. And what can family and friends do? The power of prayer. Pray. Pray for your kids. Pray for everyone that you know. Pray for someone that is thinking about. Watch for the signs. Prayer connects us to God and opens our the transcendent help from the spirits, from the good spirits that are able to help us only if we are connected with them. So prayer, you bring consoling, you bring like energy that evolves the one that is suffering and relieves them. So pray. Pray for God helps, God brings the peace. Not only for those ones that have passed through that, but for ourselves that are here and asking questions, why this happens, why this person did that, why didn't I do what I should have done. So seek for help, seek for medical support. Sometimes it's important to have some medical help in order to have a short-term relief. But that doesn't depend on but it's important, don't depend on the medicine. It's important, seek for psychotherapy that helps to cure from inside to outside. Seek for calm and resignation, as Kardec says. The calm and resignation acquired in the way of considering earthly life and trust in the future give the spirit a serenity that is the best condom against madness and suicide. Calm and resignation and faith. Faith that there is a purpose that we are here. There is an important and true reason that we are here. We need to seek for this meaning to our lives, and brings calm and resignation. And the Spiritism brings this meaningful to our life, brings us to where it answers the questions why we are here, why we are passing through this situation, and where we are going to. And also, I would like to repeat the advices that all my colleagues, all my friends brought to you today. Come to me, all who are fatigued, and I will give you rest. All sufferings, such as miseries, deceptions, physical pain, loss of loved ones, will find consolation from faith in the future and from confidence in God's justice, all of which Christ came to teach men. We are all here, passing through from the same different trials, but we're here all together. We are an expiation trial planet, so we are going to have challenges in our lives. And when we are seek for God's justice, knowing that He involves us with His love energy, bring us this calm and this resignation, and remember of this advice from Christ. Remember that we are here as apprentices of life. Come to me, all who are fatigued, and I'll give you the rest. This is the only solution. Trying to understand that we are apprentices of life. Doesn't matter which kind of challenges that we are facing in life. Have in our hearts, deeply in our hearts, that God is there for us. Jesus is there for us. We just need to seek. Thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry about the time. Thank you very much. Let me see if there is any question. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Have a very good day. And the next topic, Eric, you bring to us. It's about fraternity. Hope to see you soon.